Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies, and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Danielle Kedward, who is an online entrepreneur who travels. And we are going to be diving into a really, really exciting topic today, all around mindset and manifestation. Danielle, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with you.
So I'm really excited to dive into mindset, manifestation, and everything that's involved within the two, to ultimately to support our listeners with their businesses and really becoming the best version of themselves. But before we do, I would love to find out a little bit more about you and your journey, Danielle, if you're happy to share with our listeners.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. And I think this is something that's so close to my heart because this sort of work, the mindset, the manifestation has been a huge, huge part of my transformation over the last 5 or 6 years. So I just want to take you back because I actually only fell into this work at 29 years old. I found myself in a corporate job. I'd done all the things. I went to school, I went to university, I got the degree. I was always kind of conditioned as a child, go to work really hard, get a really good job, go to university. And I actually come from very humble beginnings in South Wales. And I remember I was having that pivotal moment where I was about to turn 30. And I don't know about you, but I had the feels turning 30. It was one of those things that I really, really struggled with. And I'm 35 now, so I've surpassed it, thankfully. But it was one of those moments where I had this pivotal moment. I was in my office. I was kind of in this suit that I couldn't really afford in central London. I worked in the city and I was tired. I was burnt out as a mortgage broker. I didn't have financial freedom. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I actually didn't have any freedom or any choice, and it weighed quite heavily on me. So I sat with it and I had this really strong urge to travel the world. I was seeing people. This was at a time where Instagram was kind of developing and getting a little bit bigger, and people were traveling and they were making money online, and social media was becoming more normal for people to make money. And I started researching. I became obsessed with educating myself on how wealthy people got wealthy, multiple streams of income. And I just knew something in my life needed to change. The idea of me kind of working until the age of 65 in that situation, being kind of so time poor, but also financially poor. I actually had £20,000 worth of debt at the time as well. I was a single girl trying to survive that Surrey lifestyle and commuting to London, and it was just a lot. And I knew something needed to change. And I think, whenever you're in that routine and you keep doing the same things, you're going to keep getting the same results, right? So and the cause of change was uncomfortable, but I feel like sometimes when we keep staying in that discomfort, we choose our hard later. And I had the awareness of that. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, there's so much uncertainty here. And I remember thinking, I've done all this training as a mortgage broker. How am I going to do this? How am I going to step into this whole new world? And I had the desire to go to Bali, be a digital nomad, live that laptop lifestyle. And I actually decided to pivot and go into the travel industry online. But I had, all of the feels, can I do this? I've done all my degrees. I'm here in the office. And I think one of the biggest, things that I realized was, I think, and probably for so many people and maybe some of your listeners, is that, we train in one field and we actually forget that our skills in that field are actually transferable. And, I knew that something needed to change, and I knew that only I could create change. And I think when I turned 30 and I realized Prince Charming wasn't going to come and save me, I had to, go on this this self-discovery journey for myself, but also make the decision to change my circumstances. And I think that was step one of my journey, was actually understanding that I could change, that I could kind of be this co-creator of my life, and I could create the life that I wanted and create life by design. And I think step two of this was actually just making that decision and actually deciding, no, I want more, and being unapologetic about that, and kind of breaking down the societal conditioning and the conditioning from my family, which were all thought I was absolutely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when I said, I'm leaving my job. But I had this knowing, and I had this knowing that working 9 till 5 wasn't for me, because it never is 9 till 5. I was actually working 70 plus hours. And I know that when I went through that transition, I actually felt really lonely, really isolated. But I just knew that it was for me. And, you know, despite the fact that I had a lot of external noise, I kind of had my blinkers on, and I had this delusional vision as to the life that I wanted. I didn't have the how, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was very passionate. And, you know, I had this knowing, this urge, this pull that was the path for me. And I think that was the catalyst of it, was, you know, having this knowing. And all I knew was I didn't want to be a mortgage broker for the rest of my life. And, you know, I think, you know, for your audience that's listening, you may be scared to make that decision. And I'm not saying pack up your life like I did, because I actually did. I gave the Range Rover away. I gave the penthouse that I was, you know, really struggling to afford, which on paper now I look back and was like, that was very silly of me. But I packed it all up, and I lived a very minimalistic lifestyle, kind of stripped away all the materialism, left the job, and moved to Bali. And whilst I was in Bali, I lived a very humble, very basic lifestyle. And I actually was able to build my online business to multiple 6 figures, which is a stone throw away from 7 figures now. I was able to travel the world. I went to Australia, Canada, Costa Rica, and I've actually helped over 26,000 women be able to kind of set up their own online business and, you know, be on their way to living a life of time freedom, and, you know, more so creating life by design, you know, creating the life that they actually want. And as I went through my whole Bali journey, I went through my whole healing journey, which kind of took me into kind of as a passion project, qualifying as a breathwork facilitator in the Kundalini, which we were just speaking about, and kind of, you know, the nervous system to be able to hold the next level, which all combines beautifully with the manifestation. So with the elements of it all, I really feel like my passion and obsession has developed from my own journey of being in a place that I was living a life that wasn't aligned. It wasn't who I really was. And I was depressed and unhappy in that state. So actually understanding that there's more out there, and that's my mission. And that's really what I do, is help people kind of, you know, create their life by design and live that life that they really want, because it is scary making those decisions to go out there and make that move.
Absolutely. What an incredible journey. And honestly, Danielle, I know a lot about your journey, and I've, you know, again, you're just such a beautiful soul, and you have such passion and creativity in terms of what you do and how you want to support and help people. And I think your journey is, you know, just to give you absolute credit for what you've done, it's incredible what you've been able to achieve, and to, you know, walk away from what you said, you know, as corporate, that kind of security. It's exactly what I did as well. I walked away from being an assistant head teacher. All my listeners know this, into creating my own business. And it takes it's the mindset, it's the, you know, absolute, the self-belief, isn't it? Walking away from that security, that support that everyone knows you for. And then all of a sudden, we're the ones that have to have that full self-belief in us, so that we can really lean into what we're truly passionate about. And that is supporting other people, helping people, and encouraging others to do the same as well.
Yeah, and that's it. It takes grit and resilience. And I think, you know, when we were talking about mindset, especially with business, you know, it's scary making those moves. But I always say, you know, sometimes it's the things that we're most scared of, which is when we've got to jump. It's when we've got to take the leap. And I think so many of us can sit and ponder, and, you know, always, you know, we can hold ourselves back in so many ways, but sometimes, but I think this is where I think, you know, trusting yourself and your intuition is huge. And I think this is where the mindset work is just so important. And I say with business, you know, and you coach women, so you probably have this quite a lot, but I always say it is actually 80% mindset, 20% strategy. And I've coached thousands of women, and they have the blueprint, they have the success formula, whether it's a 6-figure success formula or whether it's, you know, getting to 5K. And 40% will do the work and the other 60 won't. And if you know what to do, but you're just not doing it, then the chances are that it is a mindset issue. And there's something which is more a limiting belief or something else deeper going on. And I think, you're only as successful as you are mentally and physically capable of being. And I think success really does come within. And I really don't think that happiness is a direct correlation to the amount of money that you bring in. Because I think, once you hit a certain income level and your basic needs are met, you don't get more happiness from that. I think there was stats and statistics, and I don't know what it was in the UK, whether it was 70,000 or 80,000, but the money can help until you hit that point. But once your basic needs are met, the happiness, you don't get happy from having the car. And I think so many people think, I'll be happy when. And unfortunately, it's the inner work, isn't it, that, really builds that happiness. And yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And so let's kind of dive into more about mindset and manifestation, because I think, like you said, it's just so powerful and really will support people in regards to what they want to achieve. And now I know that everyone's goals and, dreams and aims and ambitions are all very different. When it comes to manifestation, because I think there's a lot of mixed kind of, or maybe even misconceptions around manifestation. Can we get some clarity from you as an expert? What is manifestation, and how can business owners really lean into this to support them?
Yeah, I love that question because there's just so much woo about it. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions. And I think, people think that they can sit and they can kind of maybe visualize something and, actually hope, wish and pray and go away. And I think Noor Hibbert says it, so you can go away, eat your Doritos and, it's not magically just going to appear on your lap. Unfortunately, there's actually a lot more to it than maybe what The Secret actually says. And I think when you're wanting to manifest something, I have some steps that I can give your listeners, like a little 4-step process that I've used to be able to manifest all of the time. And I think one of the first things for people, in business or whatever they're trying to call in, is to actually just get crystal clear on what they want. And this is a step that, so many people in the world don't even get to. They don't even give themselves permission to dream. I think so many people, don't dream, and they're not unapologetic, or they don't believe that thing can ever be for them. And I know that when I started my journey, people used to think, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Why do you want more? And we used to feel guilt and shame sometimes about wanting more. So I think the first step is for whoever it is to get super crystal clear on what they want to manifest, and just understand that what you desire is destined for you. We're always co-creating with creators as humans, right? And we're always co-creating with the universe, with universal forces, with universal laws. And we all have free will as humans. So the universe can't give you what you don't believe you're worthy of receiving. So you have to actually, just take away the fear of what other people are going to think, because you can be rich or you can be poor. People are still unfortunately going to judge you. So, get clear on what you want. That's the first part of it, is just allowing yourself to say, no, I want the car, I want the business, I want to leave my job, I want the child, whatever it is that you actually desire. And also how you want to feel it. Say, for example, you're somebody in business and you're chasing your first 6 figures. For example, there's a million different ways that you can actually chase 6 figures. But how do you want to feel? How do you want that process to feel? Because you can hit 6 figures feeling stressed, burnt out, and on the brink of a breakdown, or you can step into a 6-figure with ease or flow. And it can be as easy as, the feminine is to receive. So you can really step into that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With the feeling, because as well, once you know how to feel it, you can tap into that vibration, and that's how you're going to be able to manifest your dream life, is to tap into that vibration. And also, when we're talking money and we're talking goals with business, with manifestation, this is where your nervous system is so important. Because, example, Kayleigh, if I said to you, right, £1 million is going to drop into your bank account tomorrow, how your body reacts to that is going to really show you some of your own identity and some of your own limiting beliefs. Right. And
the nervous system just fascinates me as well. The work around the nervous system is just incredible.
Yeah. And I think, if you do open up your bank account and you feel really stressed, maybe it shows you what some of your limiting beliefs around money are. So how can you figure out, how much you think is possible for you? I think that's really, really important, is to kind of start doing the limiting belief work and shifting your vibration. Because again, if you are kind of in conflict and you've got fears and you've got limiting beliefs, and you're unregulated, then sometimes you can attract the thing, and actually then you're attracting from a place of need or being dysregulated. And what will happen is actually you may hit the income goal, but then you're going to be absolutely terrified of losing it.
Yeah. So in regards to, and thank you so much as well for kind of sharing the steps and ultimately how to really lean into that. Is there certain kind of mindset blocks, or is there certain limiting beliefs that you see that people struggle with again and again and again when it comes to manifestation?
Yeah, definitely. And I can give you some tools and modalities and some questions to kind of try and break down the beliefs. So I think one of the biggest beliefs that I work with is like, it's not coming fast enough. Why is it not coming? Somebody's trying to manifest their dream partner. Where is he? Where is he? He's not coming. And they're coming from such a place of need. Well, need and want is not the vibration that we can actually manifest from. So how can we feel okay with what we have and see the thing that we actually desire as something that I call bonus energy? So, okay, I'm good without it, but this would be the icing on the cake. This is what I want. And because your energy is going to be on the frequency of the thing, because like attracts like. So if you're coming from a place of need, maybe you do manifest the thing, but you're going to manifest a partner who maybe is going to amplify all of your core wounds, right? Because actually, if you haven't kind of done the inner work as to why you want the thing, and maybe sometimes you're feeling a place of lack in your life, which is why you want it, then actually you can manifest a partner that's going to amplify all of your wounding. So actually, it's really important to go back and do the rewire of some of the limiting beliefs. And sometimes this is like the rewiring of the brain. And an example, like if you say, when you go and spend money or something, and you're trying to rewire, and you're like, right, okay, money is an unlimited resource. Money is always flowing your way. Then, for example, maybe that can be your affirmation that you keep saying, and you can pay for your dinner or you can pay for a parking fine from a place of gratitude and faith, because you can come from this understanding that money is an unlimited resource. Money is just a tool. Money is just energy. And what happens is when you do the fire and rewire of the reprogramming of the belief, if you're consistently thinking, oh my God, I can't make money, or money doesn't come quick enough, this can take time to rebuild, but this is going to be the crystallization of it, of that new neural pathway. And what I do is when I get into a habit of making a transaction, because I want to feel on the frequency of gratitude, which is a higher vibration, because if I'm coming from lack will attract lack. So I'm always like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will say the money is coming back to me. But this can take time to create the new neural pathways within your brain. But when you change your energy around money, or you change your energy around men, for example, if you're trying to call in a partner, it will change your vibration. So when you're going in and doing some of the limiting belief work, some of the tools you can do is kind of asking yourself, is this belief the truth? So for example, all men are bad. I'm going to be single forever. Okay, is this belief the truth? Well, I always describe it as like a table. So there's a table here, and you've got the top of the table and you've got the legs of the table. The top of the table is the belief. If you knock down that old belief, you can then kind of knock the leg down and create a more empowering belief, and then collect evidence around the belief. So you're always wanting the new evidence that's going to support the desire. And as I'm chasing my first 7 figures, I've really had to do this work, because I've been like, I'm going to get it and I'm going to lose it, because I've been unregulated with that next level. So what I've been doing is really questioning, okay, is this the truth? Right? Mm-hmm. Is this the truth? Because my nervous system has been recalibrating on a newer level, and some of the old patterns have been coming up. So I've had to stop and pause. And I've got this thing now where I say stop when I can feel myself spiraling, which so many of us will do. And I'm like, okay, is this belief the truth? And can I find any evidence that this belief is not the truth? And then I've been looking for other people who are 7-figure income earners. And I've been like, okay, is this true for someone else? Because it wouldn't just be me who got the 7 figures and then lost it, or is there someone I love, or is there somebody I can see on Instagram that's absolutely accelerating in all areas? And if that person came to me, or it could be you that I came to for advice, what would I tell them about the belief? And I find that this is just an incredible hack that I've been able to use and tap into to actually recalm my nervous system. But also what I've done is put that income onto a screenshot of my bank balance so that my nervous system doesn't feel like, oh my God, when I get it, so that I'm regulating my nervous system with that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I can see the power and the value of doing an exercise or a hack like that. And how often would you recommend people do that then? Is that when they're kind of having a little bit of doubt, or how often would you recommend people do?
Yeah. So I did this in one of my coaching programs, and I actually set an alarm on my phone. And I don't know if it's just come up. You can probably just see it on here. It says, I am the millionaire mentor. And I feel safe with my money, because it's like, okay, how do I want to feel when I've got it? Do I want to feel safe and radiant and abundant? And like, security for women is really, really important, right? I don't want to have it and be terrified of losing it and living in chaos, because that's not the point of it. So this comes up every hour, and I will sit and I will reprogram. And I had to do that when I was calling in my partner as well. And because there was fears around abandonment. I have an abandonment wound. So I have a anxious attachment. And I really had to like reprogram. And what I did, there's lots of different ways. And, you know, this way, this reprogramming of the belief is going to be so important to your listeners to ask themselves, is this the truth? Is there any way that this could not be true? Knock down the belief. So you're knocking the legs of the table, and then find evidence that it could not be true, that belief. And then you rebuild the evidence, or pretend, if you have somebody, who you were coaching, well, what would my mentor say if I went to them with this belief? And you will slowly but surely start to have the evidence of everything being in motion and it all coming. Another really good way for nervous system regulation is the breath work, and the Kundalini, which is what I do really heavily on nervous system work, but also EFT, which is like the emotional tapping freedom. Like, I am worthy, I am worthy, I'm a six-figure mentor, I'm a six-figure mentor, 7 figures. And you can do different tapping to calm and regulate your nervous system as well. So yeah, that's just a little hack that's really, really helped me, because it is the belief behind the thing, because the universe can't give you what you're worthy of receiving. Energetically, you're going to be blocking it.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, what an incredible hack. I love this. I love this. Okay, so a number of our listeners will have their goals, and we sort of touched on goals and things at the beginning of the episode. So say, for example, some of our listeners, they might be working towards their first 6 figures, or they're scaling towards their first 7 figures, or it's nothing to do with money and they just want that freedom, whatever their kind of overarching goal is. If they are really working towards that, number one, we know it's going to take time. It's going to take mindset work. Is there any daily actions or routines or habits that you could potentially share with our listeners that may well support them with that? I know it will depend obviously on their goals, but are there any sort of hacks that you could suggest and recommend, other than the one you've already shared in regards to reprogramming? Is there anything else that you could suggest that will support them with that manifestation and that mindset work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is actually one of like the key parts of manifestation, is the acting as if you've already had it. You already had the thing that you're wanting to call in, and the thing you actually desire. And this gets to be fun. This is your future self energy. This is, who do you want to be? Who does that person who's got the 6-figure income that you're wanting to call in, how do they show up? Right? Who does that 6-figure version of you who already has what you desire? Like, how do they talk? How do they run business? What sort of risks do they take? And this, when you do this work, it's bridging the version of where you are now to where you want to be, which is how you're going to be able to collapse timelines and actually quantum leap. And this future self energy is just so powerful. And when you start to ingrain those daily habits of the version of you that has it all already, you will start to become that person. And this is when you're really going to start to show up like them, talk like them. Like, what sort of habits do they need to have on a daily basis? How can you act as if you've already had it? And sometimes I've had clients, and they've got really big belief issues, and we're breaking down the beliefs, but I get them to envision a character. Who is that person of you, a version of you who's already living that experience. And the fact that that person can already think of it, there's a parallel universe out there that, they can become that person. And I think the becoming of is so important, because when we're wanting to manifest, say it's the 6 figures, majority of the time, it's not actually the 6 figures that we actually want, it's how we think the 6 figures is going to make us feel.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's the journey of becoming. It's in that gap who you become to be that person. And I did a plant medicine trip. I went to Costa Rica and I did ayahuasca. And the shaman said to me, it was about losing attachments. And obviously, we come into this world with nothing and we leave this world with nothing, materialistic wise. But the whole goal is to be able to leave with all this knowledge, all this wisdom, to become that person that we do take away before we go away and reincarnate. So I think, when we are kind of looking at, okay, the things that we can do on a daily basis, one, we need to be on the frequency of the thing that we want to desire. How can you raise your vibration? Is this, journaling every morning? Is this meditating? Is this doing the breath work and healing the wounds so that you're not manifesting from a wounded place? Because the thing won't heal the wound or the feeling that you're actually wanting, or the thing that you're actually wanting and run away from. A lot of the people think, oh, I'll be happy when. Well, actually, no, because as we said at the beginning of the call, it starts within. So what does that version of you, what's their energy like? How do they treat others? How do they run their business? And I think ultimately, when you start to make these shifts, you just bridge that gap. And this is where you're really going to be able to collapse timelines and quantum leap, and be that person who's already living that experience and become her. And this process can happen very, very fast. Is when you start to do this and actually act on the intuition, take action and inspiration, because a lot of time when we're wanting to manifest something, we'll get a download or we'll get a vision. And it might be like you, Kayleigh, you were like, I'm going to reach out to Danny today. That was an inspiration. It was, the universe can't give us everything. Sometimes we've got to do the work. We have to take action. And maybe when you get that trust and you get that pull, you've got to act on it as well. You've got to take the action. And I think that's a huge part of the manifestation, is actually doing the work. And something your listeners can do is, on the whole, becoming it and acting in future self energy, is to set a date in the diary. And if, say, for example, you said, they potentially are working towards their first 6 figures, you can have an agreement with the universe. Let's just say, and just talking, because obviously if you're there going, where are they? Where are they? It's not coming. We're just going to be blocking ourselves. However, if we can say, okay, we're going to make an agreement with the universe. Today is the 24th of June. We're going to go 30 days. And I know that in these 30 days, my dream partner is 100% going to come, right? Or the 100K is going to land into your bank account. You would start to show up so differently. Your energy would be confident. The way that you, let's just use dating as an example, the way that you went on a date would just be so different, because you'd be like, well, it doesn't matter if he's the one or not, because my man is coming. My soulmate is coming. You'd start to show up energetically from a place of magnetism, rather than, oh, all men are bad, and this date has to work. Can you see the difference in the energy as to how you're going to show up? So if you knew that the thing that you desired was 100% on its way and it was 100% coming to you, how would you show up on that journey? How would you show up over the next 30 days? If you knew that, I don't know about you, but do you know when you go on holiday, the week before your holiday, like you're like, I'm going away, it's amazing, your mood's higher, it all feels really good. You show up differently. So how would you start to show up if you knew that partner was coming, or that money was going to drop in your bank account? And also the way you're going to show up with money and clients, you're not coming from a place of lack or a place of need. You're coming from a place of magnetism and abundance. And this is the perfect energy for you to be able to manifest from. So I've done this before, and I've helped people show up so differently. And there is that energy shift and the change in their energy on how they show up and who they become in that 30 days. I'm not saying that you will actually get the partner in that 30 days, but it's the shift. And that's what's really going to make a difference to how you need to be on a daily basis, is coming from that energy. And when you manifest from that energy, you're going to get a partner who's not probably coming from that wounded place of need, lack, or the income, because you know that it's coming and it doesn't really matter when, because you're okay from where you are now. Does that make sense?
100%. And you know what? It's really interesting, you sharing all of this. It's so true, because when I think to, any day when I show up and I'm, I'll always do my workout as the first thing that I do when I get up in the morning. Before I even look at my phone, my alarm goes off, I do my workout. plug in some Ibiza house music. I get into my own zone. I then start to think about the day. And like when you're setting yourself up for the day and when you're getting into those daily habits, those routines that make you feel good. I know that some people like to meditate and do journaling, etc., whatever kind of works for the individual. But when you fully show up in that energy, and like you said, it's almost as if you're becoming that person and you've already got that thing and you're acting like that, you're embodying it, aren't you, as to who that person is. It just completely shifts everything, and it really does work. I've seen it in my own, in my own energy, in my own self previously, again and again and again, and it really does work. Whereas when I think when we put a downer on things or we start to question, oh my goodness, it's not working, or the sales aren't coming, or the man isn't coming, or whatever it is, automatically you're, shutting that opportunity down because you're changing your mindset, you're shifting your energy, and just things will then start to go off and not feel aligned. So completely makes sense. And I'm sure this is resonating an awful lot with some of our listeners, or giving them an absolute light bulb moment of, wow, this is the things that I could be doing. What happens, Danielle, just in regards to some advice for our listeners here as well, because I think some people might be thinking, well, I've done some manifestation work, I've done some mindset work, I've tried to really embody and become, but the results still aren't coming. Is there any advice that you can give if people are sort of in that state of mind where they're really struggling and they're not seeing the results as quickly as they hoped?
Yeah, I think this comes down to the limiting belief work and just knowing and trusting and surrendering, because a huge part of manifestation is knowing and trusting it's coming when it's supposed to come. And it will come when you're an energetic match for it. So maybe there is some, limiting beliefs that's blocking you, that's holding you back. Maybe you're blocking yourself. And sometimes we all want everything super, super fast, but actually you don't want to get the thing before your nervous system can hold the thing that you desire, because this is why people will get their dream partner and they will sabotage it straight away, because energetically their nervous system isn't regulated to a point where they can hold the capacity of that. Or this is why people will get rich really quick and lose it all. And we see this time and time again, where people, that their energetic capacity to hold the thing isn't ready. And this is why sometimes doing the energy and the ceramic body work will actually help you release the lower vibrational frequencies within your body. So this is where the Kundalini energy that I work with will really help people raise their vibration. Because say, for example, you want the dream partner, so many people can be like, well, where is the dream partner? He's not coming quick enough. But if you're not an energetic match for that dream partner, then you're not going to call him in. So maybe you need to do some work. What's the best version of you, right? How can you work on you so you can raise your vibration to be on the same frequency of the man that you actually want? Because so many people just want the man to be this, this incredible man, but they're not actually doing the work themselves. They're not on the frequency of what that man would desire. So are you confident? Are you confident within yourself? Are you loving? Is your energy open? Are you in your feminine, or are you consistently being pushed into your masculine? So there's so many different elements of this, as to where sometimes we have to take radical responsibility for who we've been and how we've been showing up. So sometimes the reflection work and the limiting belief work, we don't want to hear it. And sometimes, we all just want to think there's a magic pill that we can take, but sometimes it's that inner work within you. How can you raise your vibration? How can you overcome your fears, your blocks? How can you become the best version of you and raise your vibration, your frequency, so that you can hold that man, so that you can hold those clients that you're going to need to hold when you hit six figures? Because I think, as you know, Kayleigh, as you go through your journey of a higher income, there's more responsibility. So you actually need to hold that. So sometimes, the universe making you wait for the thing isn't a bad thing. It's preparing you. It's getting you ready. And when you can be okay with everything that you've got now, and you see the thing that you desire is just bonus energy, you are in a place of surrender. Again, your frequency is more magnetic. It's going to come quicker. But sometimes there's just a few tweaks and retweaks and shifts that you need for you to be able to call that in. Or maybe there's just a little bit more inner work that you need to do to be able to get the thing that you're really wanting. So my biggest advice is kind of try and shift your mindset from, I don't have, where is it? Why is it not happening to me? Which is a victim mindset, to becoming to a place where it's, okay, I know, like what we just said in that challenge, if you knew that in 30 days it was 100% coming, and it was coming, having that deep knowing and desire that everything you desire is coming to you. God, source, universe, creator, he wants you to be infinite. He wants you to have everything. He wants abundance. A lot of the time, the only limit that we have is the limits that we put on ourselves. And this is through the societal conditioning. We block ourselves in so many ways. And I think if you're talking about like consciousness and, universal laws, like we have free will, we can have whatever we want, but we haven't been taught it. We've been taught to stay small. We've been taught to, unfortunately, we've had all these conditionings which make us think that we can't have the thing, or we're not worthy of the partner. But actually the reality is that we really, really can, but we have to have that worthiness issue so that we know that we can actually have it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more as well. The only limits that we have are the ones we put on ourselves. It's so true, isn't it? And we are in control. We're in full control of our lives, of the things that we do, of the actions that we take, of the mindset that we have. And I think this is one of the biggest takeaways is really listening to what you've just said and believing, truly understanding, embodying, and believing that you can create, you can manifest, you can achieve what you want to achieve. But you've got to do the work, the inner work. You've got to do the outer work. You've got to do all of the work that's going to help you get there, and believe and keep going no matter what. What would your final piece of advice be, Danielle, as we come towards the end of the episode? What's that final piece of advice that you'd like to give our listeners today about either mindset, manifestation as a whole?
I think just really allow yourself to dream unapologetically, and don't be caught up in the how. I think when you be, and you can be on the journey of becoming that next level version of you, that 2.0 version of you, that magnetic, confident, radiant woman that that you're destined to be, who knows that she can have it all. Your energy is just going to change so much. I always say, on the process of the healing, which isn't really what people want to do, but it's sometimes what we need to be able to go to that next level, like dive in. I don't think success is easy, but it's in there. And, just make that first step, just take that first step, make that decision, decide what you want. And I think you'll go on a journey from there, and it will just unravel in the most beautiful way that it's supposed to unravel. But give yourself permission to dream. And I think you've got to have a bit of delusional, people used to think, Danny, you are absolutely delusional. And, on paper, I should never have what I have. But somehow I've done the work, and here we are. And I just really want every woman to really just know what's possible for them, because honestly, the sky is the limit. So just reach for the stars and take a chance on yourself. And you just, honestly, the world is your oyster.
Such beautiful words to share, and incredible advice. I could talk to you for hours about this topic, and I think it's such a fascinating thing. And I know that so many of our listeners will really benefit from this episode and benefit from all the things that you've shared today. Where can our listeners find you and connect with you, Danielle?
Yeah, so my Instagram is just my name. It's Danielle.Kedward. And then there's a healing page off there if people are kind of interested in doing the work.
Amazing. All links are in the show notes for those that are listening as well. Danielle, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on to today's episode.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to everyone who's tuned into today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and I'll see you all again next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur Podcast with me, your host, Kayleigh Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream six-figure or multi-six-figure business, then head to our website now for more information, or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.